welcome back. Thank you for tuning in again. I'm Bree.
I'm Khadijah.
Hannah.
My drink today is a mimosa. What y'all drinking?
I have my little margarita mix.
I have Vimto.
You have what?
Vimto.
Okay, so this is episode 6, and today's topic is spirituality and religion. And we're going to get right into it. So the first question is, do you consider yourself religious or spiritual? Is there even a difference?
I definitely think there's a difference. I feel like if you're religious, then you obviously identify with one religion and you follow the guidelines that are set, or you try to, to the best of your ability, wherever you are in your journey, you follow the guidelines of that. You pray to whomever is associated with that, customs, traditions, all that good stuff. Like you have something that you're following. I feel like if you're spiritual, then you kind of believe that there is a God or gods or something that is bigger than you, bigger than humans, that you kind of are kind of free, freestyling with, and you're kind of going with the flow. But that's what I think the difference is.
So do you consider yourself either one of those?
For a long time, I thought I was religious. Like I was born into a Christian family, and I feel like now that I'm getting older and like, becoming who I am, I'm kind of starting to question, religion as a whole, and then specifically like what my relationship is with Christianity. So I'm learning, I'm evolving, so I can't give you a solid answer right now.
That's fair. What about you, Deej?
I'm not really sure that there's a difference between religiousness and spirituality, because I feel like more often than not, when I hear spirituality, it's more so people who were either raised in a Christian, Muslim, or whatever background, like very set, clear, defined rules, and don't necessarily ascribe to those rules, but still believe in a higher power. So I don't know. I don't know if there's a difference, to be honest. And for myself, I think, I'm Muslim, so I am, but I definitely do struggle with my faith. So do I follow everything to the T? Absolutely not. I'm not even wearing a hijab, as you can see. I do consider myself a Muslim.
I think there is a difference. I kind of more so agree with Henna. I agree that if you're religious, then you have a specific religion that you wholeheartedly believe in and you follow all the guidelines of it. Whereas for me, and I think that I'm more spiritual than religious, because I do believe there's a God. I do pray, but I wouldn't say I'm Catholic or I'm Pentecostal or I'm Muslim. Like I don't identify with a specific religion. So I guess I can agree that there is a difference between the two.
So
what you say?
So would you say that people who practice like voodoo and hoodoo and like more traditional things like that, does that count as a religion to you, or do you think that's spiritual, even though there's like gods? And
I think it's a religion. I think voodoo, like, it's a religion. It's their religion. They're praying to the god of voodoo or whatever. I don't know the details, but I would more so say it's a religion because it comes with its guidelines that they follow. Whereas when you're spiritual, you believe in a God, you pray to God, you spend time in like sacred spaces where you just kind of, I guess, connect with God, but you don't have these sets of rules that you have to follow, so to speak.
I know. I also feel
yeah. I don't want to call it freestyling like Henna said, but it's more so like that. Like,
it's not so structured. Yeah, I also feel like when people like think religion, like they think like the big, like established ones that are known across the world. And I feel like if you're, or maybe it's something that's smaller or not as quite as known, but like you have something again that is a higher power, and there's rules, and you follow this and you do this and do that, and I think that counts as a religion too. I just think the difference between religion and spirituality is a form of structure.
Right.
I've changed my mind. I can get along with that.
Right.
That makes
Okay.
sense.
So our next question is: do you consider your what was your faith decided for you, or did you make that choice on your own? So was your faith decided for you, or did you make that choice on your own?
It was not decided for me. I mean, it was decided for me.
I was about to say, girl.
That came out wrong. But yeah, I didn't have a choice in this. And then, like, let's say even if I wanted to convert to another religion, the stigma, the impact, the backlash would not. I don't know if it would even be worth it. Like, it would be easier to just be a non-practicing Muslim than to be a Muslim who converted to Christianity.
I hear that.
When I was younger, my parents would take me to Sunday school during Ramadan. Every day we go to the mosque every day. So, and then like even in Senegalese culture, like religion is in everything. Like you cannot have a conversation with someone without them referencing God in some way. So.
It was definitely decided for me. I mean, you're born into whatever like your people are already doing. So as a child, you're not even in a place to decide for yourself. So you just go with, if they take you to church, you go to church. If they don't take you to church, you don't go to church. But so yeah, so I was born into it. They take us to church, this and that. I feel like I'm at a place where if I wanted to convert, that would be one conversation. If I wanted to become something else, I wanted to become Muslim, I wanted to become a Buddhist or something, that would be quite one conversation. If I wanted to denounce and say I was an atheist or something, I don't know. Like my family loves me, but I don't know if they love me that much. I know it would be a serious problem. So yeah. So
yeah, I agree. To say you're atheist, to say I'm atheist, my mom would probably not talk to me anymore.
They would think like the devil had gotten to me. So, and
I say that because
it's actually like religion has happened to me. Like the devil got to me. So that would be what it was.
It would be a curse. Don't say it's a curse.
Yeah, like there's no way.
I'm dead. No, because I can say this because there was a time I was talking to a Muslim guy. I really liked him, and we weren't we weren't official, but I told my mom about the situation because he was Muslim. I kind of wanted to, just get her opinion real quick, and she was not having it. She was like, "That's not your religion. Like, you cannot she knows that as the woman, I'm gonna have to conform to that religion, and she just was not with it. So I know for a fact if I was to go even further and say I'm atheist, nah, it would be good for me.
Yeah, I dated a Christian once. Well, most of the guys that I dated have been Christian, now that I think about it. And sometimes I feel like because they were Christian and we had that huge divider, it was kind of doomed from the start. Like, this relationship could not go anywhere further down the line because that religious barrier is something.
It's not a small thing.
It's not small. Like, being naive at 19 and feeling like, oh, I really like him and we can just figure it out when the time comes is just not realistic. Like,
it's not. So
moving forward, like I'm not gonna date Christians anymore because why put both of us through that angst? Because I'm not converting, and for me to expect him to convert, I don't know.
It's selfish.
Part of me feels like it's selfish.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not fair to them, especially if this is something that they truly believe in. Like, I shouldn't expect them to choose between God and me. Like,
right.
That's real.
Yeah.
So you guys would say that your journey in faith has been difficult?
I think the hardest thing that has happened for me has been where like I've reached this place where I'm like, okay, I'm an adult, I think things through, I make my own decisions for the most part. Like my people, they won't force me to go to church, but it's just like a side eye, if you don't want to go, or and some days it's like, nope, it's Sunday morning, like get up and go. Like, I'm not about to fight with you, so let's just go. But the hardest thing for me has been the fact that I'm at a place now where I've started thinking for myself. And everybody knows me and my family. Like they have to say, "Oh, Hannah's that whole gender studies is her life." And like, "Oh, she got to think too deep about everything." Like they make a joke of it, but like I think about things very, very deeply. So I started thinking like about what religion means to me and like what I really believe in. And I think that I don't believe in religion. Like personally, I don't think that I am religious or want to be religious because and I might go on a mini right here, so feel free to stop me if I'm talking too much. But I feel like religion is, and even if you look at it throughout history, I think it's a means of controlling human behavior. And I feel like they erupt and they're created and they evolve over time and they ebb and they flow and they change. Like a lot of the religions that existed 400-500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, they don't exist anymore today. And new ones, come up and they come up in their path and they change and whatever. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. But I think that the issue that is created for me is that now I'm at this place where like, okay, I was born into a Christian family, but I have so many issues with Christianity. Like I take up so many issues with it. Like I'm still at a place where like I'm trying to understand like what God means to me, who God is to me. Like I'm questioning everything. That's where I am in my life. That's where I am in my faith. That's where I am in the journey, where I'm going to end up. I'm questioning everything. And I feel like, being African or being Caribbean or just being a religious person at all, like just that in itself is bad. It's taboo. Like it's built into religion that you don't question anything. You don't question God.
Exactly.
Things are, you're just supposed to roll with it. Like if things are bad, it's because it's planned and this, da, 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 and you roll with it. But I can't. Like that's who I am. And even if I'm going according to religion, like God gave me this mind. And this mind that I have, I can't just accept things and say, that's the way they are, that's the way this is. Well, it's been like this, and you just have to take it and roll with it. My mind doesn't work that way. Like I, as a person, I don't work that way. So I'm at this point where I'm questioning everything and I'm thinking about things for myself. And that can be really hard because, again, like I feel like the religious community, the religious arena, like that's not something that, especially in like African families, restricted families, that's not something that's easy to do or easy to talk about. So yeah, I'm at a difficult place with that.
When you said that religion comes off as a means to control people, I kind of understand where you come from with that, because I've seen like it's a lot of stuff about religion that gets to me as well. For one, it's hard to find, even if I wanted to be religious, it would be hard to find somebody that, like a church that I really believe in, that I really feel like they wholeheartedly are, practicing the faith. Like, I just feel like, I don't know, like I've seen pastors, like I've heard crazy stories about pastors and priests, and it's just like,
yeah,
I can't put my faith in you. Like for all that, like I might as well sit at home and read the Bible by myself. Like,
and that's where I feel like a lot of my issues stem from. Of course, they always say, pastors, churches are made of humans, they're imperfect X, Y, and Z, but that's another issue. Like I think the idea of the church itself is just extremely flawed too. Like I've had so many terrible church experiences, and I know you can't write off all of religion because of that, but every single church I've been to since I was young, like it's ended badly, like so badly. Like,
and then even the congregation, like the churches I've been to, like people are talking about each other. There's drama. Like this is church. Like how am I supposed to take this serious?
These mosques are the same way.
How am I supposed to take this serious? Like for real. And I get it, because I honestly believe that as long as you're being authentic in your religion, then nothing else matters. But at the same time, it's easier said than done. Like it's definitely easier said than done.
Well, when I say I think it's a means of controlling human behavior, so the one example I like to give, right? So there's this, I guess, a verse or saying in the Bible, it's like the meek will inherit the earth. And then there's, forgive me if I'm wrong, I believe it's Hinduism where it's like if you're born and like you're born a maid or like you're born poor and you're lowly in life, it's because in your past life
You were
Yeah, I think you're right.
like it's a punishment.
that is so like you're being not punished, but like you're working based off that past life, and if you work hard enough, then you know you'll elevate in your next life and you keep elevating until you get to the highest um standing. And when I say I think it's to control human behavior, it's because the way the world is, there's so like as we can see with everything that's going on right now, there's so much injustice in the world. There's so many terrible, ugly things. And I feel like people need religion and they need God because how do you navigate, you know, in such a scary, terrible world without something to like give you hope, something to hold on to? So I feel like people need religion in that sense, but I also feel like it's a means of controlling behavior because what's to stop me from going outside right now and saying, you know, I want this, I'm gonna steal it, or I'm gonna take it. Like I fear God, you know, and like I feel like God is watching me. I want to make it to heaven. So, you know, I'm going to like there's something that's stopping me from, you know, really acting on like my most terrible impulses. So I feel like that's important. And it's like the way the world is, you know, you're like, oh, my life is so terrible, I'm so poor. Instead of it to be like there are systems in place in this world that have led to, you know, the way the world is, like, oh, it's not greed or capitalism or selfishness or this or that. You're like, oh no, it's the devil, you know, just stay down and pray, work harder. And the next
Let's talk about it.
the small, because if people were to really, you know, really tap into what was going on in the world and really like get angry and get active, it's like things would be chaos. Like the current systems that are in place in the world wouldn't stay in place. But you know, you say the meek will inherit the earth. Work harder in the next life, it'll be better. And it's keeping the small, like it's controlling your behavior. And I feel like another reason why I take issue with Christianity, at least looking at it from a woman's standpoint, as a woman, I can't. Like I can't, there's so many things I can't accept. I feel like Christianity and and I feel like Islam too, like there's this, it creates this
Favor to the man.
that women are second class
Inferior.
citizens, and they're like and they're I'm trying to think of how to word this properly. So in the Bible, Eve is the one that got Adam to eat the fruit. Women are they come from the side of the man, they come from the rib. Women should be guided by men, they should be led by men. You should submit, you're the neck and he's the head. And it's like it's creating this idea that like women need to be controlled, they need to be watched over, they need to be submissive, they come second to men, men have to lead them. And people form traditions out of this, they form ideals out of this, and they back it up with religion. So now you have these systems of patriarchy that are heavily influenced by religion. Then again, you don't question God, you don't question those things. So now as a woman, you are now a second class citizen, you're now subjected to, you know, being a tier down in life, and there's nothing you can do about it because God said so, the Bible said so. You know, Adam and women need to be, you know, because they're sneaky and they're this and they're that, and they need to be led, and they should be in the home, and it says you should do this. And here you are now, you didn't ask to be born a woman. You didn't ask. Here you are in this body, in this position, and you're living this life that's guided by these men who are guided by these principles that are based in religion, and you have no say over it. And you're just born and you're a second class citizen. Boom, and you're living the rest of your life like this. And to me and you, it might not mean anything, but to girls living, you know, third world countries, they're being married off because of this and that. They're living a life where they're capped at like servitude. You know, they can only do so much, they can only achieve so much. And I feel like a lot of these things are based in religion and there's nothing that we can do about it. So that's, you know, one of the majority of my issues stem from with that.
I definitely, you know, you've pointed out something that I honestly didn't think about to that in like that deep, on that deep of a level. And I definitely feel like I could resonate with that. It does kind of make the woman look inferior to the man. And I honestly don't know if I agree with that. But to shift gears a little bit, I wanted to mention that.
Can I just actually, you know, make a commentary
go ahead.
About Islam specifically? I can't speak to Christianity on any real level, but what I can say about Islam and womanhood is that during the time that the religion was formed, Islam was a way for women to have power. Like with this religion, women were able to own land. They were able to kind of be more autonomous than they were allowed to be prior to that because of their culture, because of the patriarchal society. So yes, in some ways, like I can definitely see where there's some questionable things, like for example, the whole fact that men can have multiple wives. That's like,
But a woman can't have multiple husbands.
right, especially, you know,
Like,
nowadays, DNA is if that's the reason why we couldn't have multiple husbands, now we
and
can
I feel
find out
like,
who the baby daddy is. But
and I feel like, you know, back in those times it worked, but like I feel like in today's world, women have created a space for themselves where they can be financially stable and they don't need a man. So now it's like, how do you fit
some of those
religion to
systems,
that?
and that's my struggle
I
too.
have a
Because
question.
I feel
Do
like
you guys feel like religion should evolve with the world, or that the world should be
yes,
constantly trying to conform to religion?
I think that religion should be able to evolve with the,
Evolve with the world.
and
Okay,
I
thank
feel
you.
like that's the purpose for that. That is supposed to be the purpose of religion. That whatever time period you're in, it's still relevant to your life.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's another issue I take up. You know, again, it's like it's even hard to talk about these things because it's like you're being blasphemous or you're questioning this or that. But to me, it's like Christianity is based in the Bible, and like every question you can ever have is supposedly answered in the Bible. So you're taking these stories that are written thousands of years ago and that you're adapting them to your life right now. And people are picking and choosing what they want to adapt and how they want to interpret it and how they want to adapt it. And I'm just like, so we ignore, you know, in the Bible where it says that you shouldn't pierce your ears, you shouldn't mix cloth, you shouldn't do this or that. But then it also says that no sin is greater than the other. But God forbid somebody is gay, but you're also supposed to love your neighbor. But the Bible's, you know what I mean? So it's just like people they twist it to the way that they want it to be. Like I really feel like it's just all a means of keeping, you know, it's just a means of controlling human behavior. And I feel like
I think that we all have our own individual responsibility though. Like, yes, we can say our church or our mosque and the religion as a whole does this, picks and chooses what they want to apply. This is true, but at the same time, it's like, if you really want to have a deep understanding and kind of create your own opinion, you have to read, you have to interpret for yourself, because you can't be living your life according to what your pastor says, because like we all said, like he's human too. So if you do your own interpretation, if you do your own research and try to figure it out for yourself, you can kind of, I don't want to say build the religion, but live your life according to the book, the way that you feel is most accurate, versus, oh, I'm just going to do this because that's what everyone else is doing, because sometimes the majority is wrong. So
And I do think that I feel like,
and that's the hardest part of it.
God, it's the hardest part, but I feel like that's all God wants from us, to do your best to honor him. Because at the end of the day, if you do believe that Jesus came down and died for us, you do owe him your life. So I can say on the brighter side that I do think that, you know, even though your interpretation may be wrong, if it is truly what you believe in it, and it's good, and it at the end of the day it's not evil, then I think at the end you will still make it to heaven, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think if Judgment Day, if that day happens, if that's real, if we're going by religious standards, that's real. God is going to ask you, oh, why did you think, or why did you do this? And if your response is because Pastor Jamal said this X, Y, and Z, that's not going to be good enough. Like,
right.
That's not that sounds like something where he'll be like, well, you had the internet, or you had resources so that you could do your own research. Like, he's going to ask you why you did something, and someone else can't be the reason why you did something. It has to be all internal, because if you're getting sins because of something that you did, Pastor Jamal gonna be doing whatever he's doing, focusing on whatever he's doing on the same day. So
another thing I have trouble registering is just like, I feel like people put their all into religion, like literally life and death will die about it. But I feel like the same conviction that like you have as a Christian is the same conviction that a Muslim has the same conviction as that a Hindu has or a Buddhist has, like that all in all, I live and die, breathe this, I'm right, like it's me, I'm right, like me and my God. In the same way that like I said, like every person, not every person, but you know what I mean, like every religion that has its followers, they feel that conviction. So I'm just like, who's right? And how do you know who's right? And at the end of the day, like how do you know who God or whose system?
Never will. I mean, you don't know if he exists, but I asked myself this question, right? What if he does? Would you have rather lived your whole life for God and find out that he does exist and make it to heaven, or live your life thinking he doesn't exist and this, like, not, disregarding him and being worldly, and then you go to hell?
I mean, but then again, but I feel like the reason why religion is a good thing, because at its core, it encourages people to be good people. You know what I mean? So if you follow Christianity, Islam, Hindu, like if you're following it correctly, then at the end of the day, like you're being a good person, you're treating other people well. There are atheists who believe in being good people and treating other people well, and do they deserve to go to hell or wherever the
I don't think they would go to hell though.
The day, but they never accepted Christ or they never came to Allah. Or, you know what I mean? So it's just like. And I was reading this thing, it was like there's these people in some jungle or some rainforest, and like these evangelists went to them. I don't even know if it's a real story, but the scenario makes sense. And they had no contact with the outside world. And this evangelist went to them to tell them about God. And someone was like, well, if you never went to them and told them about God, and they just literally had no way of knowing, they're secluded from society, they practice whatever they practice, but they have went to hell. And the religious person was like, no. So they're like, why did you bother them in the first place? You know what I mean? There's some people that have no way of getting to God, if that makes sense. Like if I'm a regular person born into a family who never believed in God, I never got taken to a Christian night, I never got taken to evangelical group, never came to me. Like, what if I never have that moment? Like nothing ever physically took me to that moment. Like, because there are people who live their lives and they never have a spiritual encounter and they never encounter God. Is that their fault? So
I mean, I think those are different though. Like living in a very isolated place, rainforest, jungle, whatever, is different from living in the suburbs of Wisconsin. Like, yes, you're in a rural area, but you're still exposed to religion in some form, in some way. Like,
yeah, you are.
In most societies, religion is apparent and it's there and it's folded into everyday life, even if you don't practice it. Versus like being in a truly isolated, truly closed off place. Like if you was on an island, yeah, you probably won't. But
even people who live in the suburbs, like they have the chance to walk into a church, but what if they never have that? Like I was born into the church, I was taken to church, like, you know, people are praying and the spirit is moving and the walls are coming down. Like I've been physically put in that environment to come to God, if you know what I mean. But like, what if you're living your life, you live in an area where it's not like that? Like, I feel like there are people like that, like regular people who just don't have access to that environment. Do you know what I mean? Like they don't have access to ever be put into like a very spiritual environment, but they're a good person. They live their everyday life. They don't bother people, you know, and they just live nicely. They do community service and then they die. Like, what? Are you going to hell because you never like accepted Jesus, you never came to Allah or any other God? Like I have
That's a good question.
Like it doesn't, like everybody doesn't have that same playing field to be religious, but like religion says that you have to follow these steps. So what if you don't get to a position where you can get to those steps? It's like religion is supposed to give you purpose, like give you meaning to your life. It's like you're supposed to live your life to bring souls to Christ. But what if that's not, you know, like what is your purpose if your purpose isn't in that, if that makes sense?
I get what you mean, right? Like, are people supposed to feel lost without it?
Yeah.
That's true.
That's what religion makes it sound like. Like without this, without us, you're nothing. Like
there's no.
I mean, what religion does for me, or spirituality does for me more than anything, it gives me a reason to be positive. Like, you know, when something doesn't work out, you tend to say, "Oh, God has a better plan," or you know, this was like, you know, like people always put it on God, give everything to God. Like, and sometimes I wonder, like, do we just use religion as, as a rock to keep us above water, or do we like really, really, really believe it? Like that also gets me too. Like, do you really, really, really believe that this is true, or you just say stuff like that to yourself just because only when like you really need that support?
I mean, you'll find that answer when you look at people who are well off, like they're very comfortable, live that perfect life that they've always wanted, versus those who don't live, who are poor, those who have experienced a lot of struggle. Like
Right.
in Quran, they say that it's easier for a poor person to get to heaven than it is for a rich person to get to heaven. And the reason being based in, you have more to pray about, I guess, when you have less, and when you need more and you're not getting that. So, and you're less likely to be like selfish and egotistical and all that stuff. Like when you think about that rich person,
So
you don't
with that
think
being
about good
said,
qualities.
with that being said, do you
Greed.
think that money is the root of all evil?
People do some crazy stuff for money, so
No, because I think people are evil because they're evil. You know what I mean? Like I think people are just wicked and they're just
That's
nasty.
true.
I'm not gonna get into a separate conversation about that, but some people are just wicked and nasty, and that it has nothing to do with money. They're just sick. I think that's that's I think that. But yeah, no. But I think that what you're saying about people needing to pray, I also feel like again, people need God and they need religion. And even if it's real or not real, they need something. Like if you think about it, you're like, okay, you're born, you didn't ask to be born, but now you're here, you're on this planet, and great things can happen to you, terrible things can happen to you. Let's say, okay, so let's take slavery, right? There was 400 years of slavery, right? And it's like, if you, according to the Bible, if you pray, you follow God, He will answer your prayers. Things that happen to your children, generational curses shall be broken, like all these things. Like people at the lowest, slaves were going through terrible things. They're being, brutalized, all these things, and they prayed and they prayed and they prayed every day. But if you are born and you die as slaves, your children are born and they die as slaves. 300 years later, your people are going through the same oppression. It's just like,
where's God?
Where was your miracle? Where was your great?
And even today, we're still looting. So where's God?
Like you can do everything right. God forbid you have a child and like your child gets sick and you pray and you do everything and you lose your child. And then they're like, oh, God doesn't make any mistakes. It's God's plan. How, in what world is it?
And this is what I'm saying. Like, it's like people just say that to make you feel better.
That's the true test of faith. Like, that's the true. I think that's literally.
Why God gotta test my faith all the time like that?
Girl, I don't got. That's the answer I don't have. And I completely understand, like, we're always put in positions, like, where we're struggling. We don't have an answer for why
I have a question, like, why can't people just believe that like, everything will not be good? Things happen. Why must you have that to fall back on? Like, and I used to have this question when I was younger, like in high school, and I had a religion teacher that hated me for it, because I used to press him about it, like, why do you feel like you have to say that God is the reason? Why can't you just say, you know what, that didn't work out?
Because people need something bigger than themselves. Like, honestly, there's just so many questions I have, so many things that don't make sense. And it's like, you will rack your brain forever. And then it's like, rack your brain forever. Or just give it up and be like, well, it's God's plan. God is like, it's something, because
I guess it's easier to do that.
But that's the answer to everything, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Like, yeah, it is.
I think, but I don't know. I feel really conflicted about that, because in some instance, like, you can say God is the reason, but that doesn't mean that it's a good thing that it happened. Like, I feel like people say God is the reason as a way to be able to let go, but it's not taking away from the fact that, oh, this situation is shitty. Like, I'm not enjoying this, and it's a terrible place to be in, but
it will get better because there's God.
Right. Right. People do that also so that they don't have to take responsibility. Like, if God is a reason, then I don't have to be responsible for my part in my part in what has resulted in this situation.
Yeah, so it's like give yourself away. I mean, but I feel like there's so many things that don't add up, which is why I have a trouble with. I believe in God. Like I can't get on an airplane and look out of the window and see all that amazingness and think that two dust particles collided or whatever and the Big Bang happened and gave us the world. So I can't think that. I believe in God. But then I feel like what at least I've been taught, at least through Christianity, so many things don't make sense. It's like Adam and Eve were in the garden. God created them. The devil tempted them. This happened. But God knows everything, and he knows everything before it happens. So what's the purpose of free will if he knows what you're going to do? And he knew that they were going to do it. So we're supposedly living in the world that we're living in today because they ate the fruit, their eyes were open, they were banished, blah, blah, blah. And we're suffering how many thousands or hundreds of years later because of what they did. But he knew he was going to do it because he's God and he knows everything, but he forgives us and he loves us, but we're still suffering from what they did. Apparently we're pushing out 10-pound babies and it hurts so bad because of Eve. Does that really make sense to you? Like, does that make sense to you?
I hear what you're saying. It's
sense.
like he knows we're gonna mess up and he just lets us mess up.
Like it doesn't make sense to me. Like there's so many things that just don't click for me. So that's why I say like I'm questioning things and I'm thinking through things myself. And I'm like trying to arrive at answers myself. And maybe I will, maybe I won't. But I feel like religion is definitely a way to like just blind people and just push, like, there's so many wars and crusades fought about religion. So many terrible things happen as a result of religion as well. So
how do you feel about, I guess, people of like our parents and stuff who put everything in God? Like, okay, you're sick, they'll say let's pray, but they won't go to the doctor. Or you're struggling in a class, they'll pray, but they won't get you a tutor.
That's ignorance, because God gave us tutors, God gave us medicine, God gave us all these resources to use so that we can get better.
My mom always says God helps those who help themselves. So
exactly.
I love that.
Okay, so I think we should wrap it up. Pretty sure we're over our time. This one was juicier than I thought it would be.
Same. I thought I had nothing to say.
I thought I wouldn't have. Oh, Henna, girl.
I always got to. I always
in, so that made it easy.
And you was spilling tea. Yeah, I was over here like, yes.
No, but I encourage people to have these conversations. Think through these things yourself. Like,
right.
It's born into these families, and how dare you question God? But like, God gave you a brain. Like, don't blindly follow all your youth pastor till you find yourself in cultism. Use your head. Think for yourself. Have conversations. And yeah, we love you guys.
Well,
yes.
Tune in next week, guys.
See you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye.